Understanding the root of avoidance in an individual, particularly an avoidant man, is a crucial step in addressing the dynamics of your relationship and fostering a deeper connection. Avoidant tendencies often stem from past experiences, unresolved emotional wounds, or a fear of vulnerability that shapes their approach to intimacy and relationships. Recognizing and navigating these complexities with empathy and awareness can pave the way to building a healthier, more secure bond. Avoidant men often develop their tendencies as a defense mechanism. Perhaps they've experienced relationships in which their emotional needs were neglected or rejected, or they've been exposed to environments where vulnerability was perceived as a weakness. These experiences can lead them to build emotional walls to protect themselves from potential hurt. Understanding this perspective requires looking beyond the surface behaviors such as withdrawal or emotional detachment and seeing them as symptoms of deeper fears or insecurities. When interacting with someone who displays avoidant tendencies, it's essential to approach the situation without judgment or attempts to fix them. Avoidance isn't about disinterest or a lack of care, rather. It's often a response to an inner struggle with emotional intimacy. By reframing your perspective to see their behavior as a coping mechanism, you can create a more compassionate and understanding approach. This isn't to excuse behaviors that might hurt you, but rather to give you a framework for responding constructively. Building trust is a foundational step. Avoidant individuals often feel uncomfortable when they sense that someone is pushing too hard for closeness. They fear losing their autonomy or being engulfed in a relationship where their needs might be overlooked. To counter this fear, it's important to create an environment of safety and reliability. This means being consistent in your actions and communication, showing them that they can depend on you without fearing judgment or excessive demands. Part of understanding avoidance is recognizing the fine line between providing support and infringing on their boundaries. Avoidant individuals often pull away when they feel overwhelmed or pressured. While it may feel natural to reach out more when they retreat, this can inadvertently reinforce their need to distance themselves. Instead, giving them the space they need while maintaining a steady presence can help them feel less threatened. And it's about striking a balance between being available and respecting their need for autonomy. Another key aspect is fostering self-awareness in the relationship. Reflect on your own patterns and behaviors to ensure that you're not unintentionally triggering their avoidance. For instance, if you're overly anxious about the connection or frequently seek reassurance, this can amplify their fears and lead them to withdraw further. Understanding your own emotional responses and managing them effectively can create a more stable foundation for the relationship. It's not about suppressing your needs, but communicating them in a way that is constructive and non-confrontational. Active listening plays a significant role in understanding the root of their behavior. Avoidant individuals often struggle to express their emotions openly, so creating a space where they feel heard and validated can encourage them to share more. When they do open up, it's crucial to listen without interrupting or jumping to conclusions. Avoid making assumptions or offering solutions unless they explicitly ask for your input. Simply being present and acknowledging their feelings can make a profound difference. Patience is an invaluable quality when navigating a relationship with an avoidant person. Progress is unlikely to happen overnight, and there will likely be moments of regression. Understanding this and remaining committed to the process can help build a foundation of trust and security. Avoidant tendencies are deeply ingrained and often require time and consistent positive experiences to shift. By showing that you're willing to invest in the relationship without rushing or forcing change, you provide them with a sense of stability that counteracts their fears of intimacy. It's also worth noting that understanding avoidance doesn't mean neglecting your own needs or compromising your well-being. While empathy and patience are essential, it's equally important to ensure that your boundaries and emotional health are respected. The goal is to foster a relationship where both individuals feel valued and supported. If you find that their avoidance consistently leaves you feeling unsupported or unfulfilled, it may be necessary to reassess the dynamics of the relationship and decide whether it's the right fit for you. Ultimately, understanding the root of avoidance is about creating a relationship environment that is conducive to growth and connection. By approaching the situation with empathy, patience, and a willingness to learn, you can help an avoidant individual feel more comfortable and secure in their relationship with you. And this doesn't guarantee that their tendencies will disappear entirely, but it lays the groundwork for a healthier and more fulfilling connection. The journey requires effort from both sides, but with time and mutual understanding, it is possible to build a relationship where both individuals can thrive. Creating a safe emotional space for an avoidant man is a delicate yet transformative process that requires intention, patience, and a deep understanding of his emotional landscape. Avoidant tendencies are often rooted in a fear of vulnerability or emotional dependency, making it essential to provide an environment where he feels secure enough to lower his guard and engage more authentically. This isn't about forcing him to change, but about fostering an atmosphere where openness feels like a natural and rewarding choice. Safety in emotional spaces begins with consistency. For someone who has built walls around their emotions, unpredictability in a partner can feel threatening. By being consistent in your words, actions, and availability, you demonstrate that you are a steady presence in his life. This doesn't mean overextending yourself or sacrificing your boundaries, rather, it's about showing that your behavior aligns with your intentions. Consistency helps to counteract any fears he might have about being let down or abandoned, which are often underlying drivers of avoidance. Nonverbal communication also plays a significant role in creating safety. Sometimes what isn't said can speak volumes. Avoidant individuals are often hyper-attuned to subtle cues, so your tone, facial expressions, and body language can either reinforce or alleviate their fears. Remaining calm, open, and non-threatening in your demeanor signals to him that he can relax in your presence. Even small gestures like a warm smile, steady eye contact, or a reassuring touch can convey support and understanding without overwhelming him with direct verbal demands. One of the most critical components of creating a safe space is active listening. Avoidant men may hesitate to share their thoughts and feelings, fearing judgment or misunderstanding. When he does choose to open up, it's vital to listen without interruption or judgment. Allow him to express himself at his own pace, even if his words come out haltingly or with hesitation. Avoid jumping in to offer solutions or advice unless he explicitly asks for it. Sometimes the act of being heard is far more valuable than any external input. Empathy is another cornerstone of building safety. Understanding his perspective, even when it differs from yours, can help bridge the gap created by his avoidance. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything he says or does, but acknowledging his feelings as valid can encourage him to share more. Phrases like, "I understand why you might feel that way," or "it's okay to feel unsure," can go a long way in reassuring him that his emotions are not only acceptable but welcomed. Patience is equally important in this process. Avoidant individuals may need time to adjust to a new dynamic where vulnerability isn't met with criticism or rejection. Progress may come in small increments. Perhaps he shares a personal anecdote, initiates a deeper conversation, or begins to lean on you during challenging times. Celebrate these moments as signs of growth, but resist the urge to rush the process. Pushing too hard for closeness can inadvertently trigger his defenses and set back the progress you've made. Creating a safe space also involves respecting his boundaries. While it's natural to want to connect deeply with someone you care about, pressing too hard for emotional intimacy can feel intrusive to an avoidant person. Allow him the space he needs to process his feelings independently while maintaining your presence as a supportive and understanding partner. This balance between giving him room and staying available demonstrates respect for his autonomy while fostering a sense of trust. Additionally, fostering safety means being mindful of your reactions during conflicts or disagreements. Avoidant individuals may struggle with confrontation, often perceiving it as a threat to their emotional safety. Approaching disagreements calmly and constructively can help alleviate this fear. Instead of resorting to blame or heightened emotions, frame your concerns in terms of your feelings and needs. For example, "I feel hurt when this happens, and I'd like to understand how we can address it together," is more likely to encourage dialogue than accusatory statements. Building a safe emotional space is not about walking on eggshells or suppressing your own needs. It's about creating a dynamic where both individuals feel valued and understood. Be transparent about your feelings and expectations in the relationship while remaining open to his perspective. This mutual exchange reinforces the idea that emotional safety is a shared responsibility rather than a one-sided effort. Ultimately, the goal is to help him feel that emotional connection doesn't equate to loss of control or exposure to harm. By showing that vulnerability can lead to deeper intimacy and mutual growth, you pave the way for a more fulfilling and balanced relationship. This process takes time, but the rewards a stronger bond and a partner who feels secure enough to truly connect are well worth the effort. respecting an avoidant man's need for space is not only a gesture of understanding but a foundational element in fostering a balanced and healthy relationship. Avoidant tendencies often stem from a deep fear of losing autonomy or being overwhelmed by emotional closeness. So when someone seeks to create a meaningful connection with an avoidant person, the instinctive response may be to close the distance immediately. However, counterintuitively, giving him the space he seeks can ultimately bring him closer. When a man with avoidant tendencies pulls back, it can trigger feelings of insecurity or anxiety in his partner. It's natural to want to bridge the perceived gap, to reach out and reassure, but this reaction can often feel suffocating to him, reinforcing the very fears that cause him to retreat in the first place. Understanding that his need for space is not a reflection of disinterest or rejection, but rather a coping mechanism, is crucial to navigating this dynamic with compassion and wisdom. To respect his need for space, it's important to first trust in the strength of the connection you've built. While avoidance may create temporary distance, it does not erase the bond or invalidate the shared moments of closeness. By resisting the urge to chase or demand explanations during these moments, you demonstrate a level of emotional maturity and self-assurance that can help ease his fears. This approach creates an environment in which he feels free to return on his own terms without the added pressure of expectations. Maintaining your own sense of independence is another key aspect of respecting his need for space. It's easy to fall into the trap of making the relationship the sole focus of your attention, but doing so can inadvertently place an unspoken burden on him to fill the gaps in your sense of fulfillment. Instead, by continuing to prioritize your own passions, friendships, and personal growth, you not only create a richer and more satisfying life for yourself, but also alleviate the pressure he might feel to be the center of your world. By embodying independence, you send a powerful message that you are a partner who respects boundaries and values individuality. This balance can be particularly reassuring for an avoidant man, as it challenges the fear that emotional closeness comes at the cost of personal freedom. Paradoxically, the more you demonstrate your ability to thrive independently, the more likely he is to feel secure in deepening the connection. Respecting his need for space also involves understanding the nuances of timing and communication. While it may be tempting to check in frequently or seek reassurance during periods of distance, such actions can inadvertently heighten his sense of being cornered. Instead, take a step back and allow him the room to initiate contact. This doesn't mean playing games or withholding your affection, but rather allowing him the opportunity to approach the relationship in a way that feels natural and unpressured. During the moments when he does reach out, be present and receptive without overwhelming him with questions or demands for explanations. Avoidant individuals often struggle to articulate their feelings, particularly when they're navigating complex emotions. By focusing on creating a calm and supportive atmosphere, you encourage him to share more freely without the fear of being interrogated or judged. It's also important to acknowledge that respecting his need for space doesn't mean neglecting your own needs or silencing your feelings. Relationships are a two-way street, and while giving him room is vital, so is ensuring that your own emotional well-being is maintained. If his retreat begins to feel prolonged or leaves you feeling unsupported, it's entirely appropriate to communicate your feelings respectfully. Framing your concerns in terms of your experience rather than placing blame can open up a dialogue that allows for mutual understanding. For example, you might say, "I understand that you sometimes need space, and I respect that. At the same time, I'd appreciate it if we could find a way to check in with each other during those times, so I don't feel completely disconnected." This kind of communication acknowledges his needs while also advocating for your own, creating a balance that benefits both partners. Lastly, patience is essential when navigating a relationship with an avoidant man. Progress may be slow and setbacks are likely, but these challenges don't have to define the relationship. By remaining steadfast in your approach and showing that you're willing to respect his boundaries without giving up on the connection, you build a foundation of trust that can withstand the tests of time. The process of respecting his need for space is not about giving up or stepping away, but about offering him the freedom to come closer on his terms. It's about showing that you value him enough to honor his individuality while also demonstrating the strength of your own self-worth. And this balance of respect and independence can create a dynamic where both partners feel valued, understood, and free to be their authentic selves. Encouraging emotional availability in an avoidant man is a process that requires patience, compassion, and a nuanced understanding of his internal world. Emotional availability often feels risky for someone with avoidant tendencies, as it requires a level of vulnerability they might find intimidating or even threatening. However, fostering a sense of safety, mutual respect, and gentle encouragement can create an environment where he feels more comfortable opening up and sharing his feelings. It begins with subtlety, as pushing too hard for emotional expression can easily trigger his defenses. Avoidant individuals are often protective of their inner lives, having developed strategies to guard against perceived risks of rejection or disappointment. Encouraging emotional availability, therefore, requires an approach that feels natural and non-threatening. Instead of directly asking him to share his feelings, engage in conversations that allow emotional depth to emerge organically. Open-ended questions about his interests, experiences, or even abstract topics like aspirations and values can create opportunities for meaningful dialogue without putting him on the spot. Equally important is modeling the kind of openness you hope to see. Sharing your thoughts and emotions in a way that feels authentic and non-demanding can set a powerful example. When you reveal something personal, it shows that vulnerability is not a weakness but a pathway to deeper connection. However, it's important to gauge his comfort level and avoid overwhelming him with intense emotional disclosures. Gradually increasing the depth of your conversations can help him feel more comfortable reciprocating in his own time. Active listening plays a critical role in encouraging emotional availability. When he does choose to share, even in small ways, how you respond can either build trust or reinforce his reservations. And listening attentively, without interrupting or offering unsolicited advice, demonstrates that his feelings are valued and respected. Validation is key. Phrases like "I can understand why you'd feel that way" or "that makes sense" can help affirm his emotions and encourage further openness. Creating a judgment-free space is also essential. Avoidant individuals often fear criticism or rejection, which can make them hesitant to express themselves. Ensuring that your reactions are supportive and empathetic can help alleviate this fear. Even if you don't fully agree with his perspective, acknowledging his right to feel the way he does can foster a sense of acceptance. This doesn't mean suppressing your own opinions, but rather expressing them in a way that feels constructive and non-confrontational. It's also important to recognize the small steps he takes toward emotional availability. For someone who struggles with vulnerability, even minor acts of openness like sharing a memory, expressing gratitude, or admitting to a difficult day are significant. Celebrate these moments quietly, without drawing too much attention to them, to reinforce that his efforts are appreciated. Over time, these small acts can build a foundation for more profound emotional connection. Encouraging emotional availability isn't about erasing his avoidant tendencies or reshaping his personality. It's about helping him see that opening up can lead to positive outcomes rather than negative ones. This often involves gently challenging his assumptions about vulnerability. For example, if he expresses discomfort with emotional closeness, you might respond by sharing an experience where being vulnerable led to a rewarding outcome. Framing vulnerability as a strength rather than a liability can help shift his perspective over time. And maintaining emotional consistency is another crucial aspect of this process. Avoidant individuals often test boundaries, sometimes unconsciously, to assess whether their partner will remain reliable and steady. By consistently demonstrating your support and understanding, even during challenging moments, you provide evidence that emotional availability doesn't have to result in chaos or rejection. Balancing encouragement with respect for his boundaries is vital. While fostering emotional openness is important, it's equally essential to avoid pressuring him to share more than he's ready for. If he expresses a need for space or seems hesitant to delve into certain topics, honor his feelings without making him feel guilty or inadequate. This balance between encouragement and respect reinforces the idea that emotional availability is a choice, not an obligation. Over time, as trust deepens, he may begin to lower his guard more readily. This process might include moments of progress followed by periods of retreat, but these fluctuations are a natural part of growth. Patience is key. Rushing the process or expressing frustration can undo the progress you've made. Instead, focus on the long-term goal of building a connection that feels safe, supportive, and mutually fulfilling. Ultimately, the journey toward encouraging emotional availability is one of mutual transformation. As he learns to navigate vulnerability, you also develop greater empathy, resilience, and understanding. Together, you create a relationship where both partners feel seen, heard, and value to bond that has the potential to grow deeper and more meaningful with time.